Oh man, I love this game. I really love this game. I picked it up when it was on PlayStation 4. I played it a ton there. I played it on PSVR, and I was super happy to jump right back into it on the Switch. Thumper is one of the best rhythm, music, action games, I don't know, whatever you want to call it. It's one of the best rhythm games I've played. It's so unique, it's so different, it's so interesting, it's so insane. If you're even in the least bit interested in the rhythm games, you absolutely have to check out Thumper. Outside of saying it's a rhythm action game, Thumper is a little hard to describe. You're a futuristic looking beetle that flies down a psychedelic highway and you have to avoid spikes and deal with sharp turns and open doors ahead of you and fight off giant skull head enemies. It sounds like the ramblings of a madman, but that's what you're doing in Thumper, and obviously all of this is tied to the music. And the best compliment I can give Thumper is when you are in the groove, when you are in the song, you're in the moment, it feels so good. You feel like you're doing one of the coolest things you've ever done in video games. And the best part is when people are watching and they're just checking out the game and haven't played it themselves, they think you're like seeing into the Matrix. They have no idea how you're doing what you're doing on screen. And even while you're playing, even though you know what's going on, you kind of feel the same way. You're like, so much is going on at the same time. I don't know how I'm managing to keep all this together. For as insane as Thumper might look, it doesn't ask you to do a ton of crazy things with the controller, so if you're worried about there being complex controls, don't. You're just doing a whole bunch of things in succession very quickly, but the controls aren't going to ask you to do a lot with them. So you're just going into turns with left and right and holding the A button. You are hitting the A button on flat panels on the ground, and you're hitting up and down to jump over spikes and stuff like that, and that's pretty much it. It's just like I said, as the levels go on, you're going to learn more ways that you use those controls to make your way through the track. And the game does not let up. You can't... There's very few portions of the game where you can sit back and take a break, and the game makes it very clear. So you'll go through like 10 portions of a track where it's non-stop and you have to stay completely focused the entire time. Then you'll get a little cooldown period to gather yourself, and then it's right back into it. And if you do get hit on the track, basically you get one hit and you can continue on, but if you get hit again, it's over. And your immediate reaction when you get hit the first time is to like ease up, but you can't, because the game just keeps going. So when you take that hit, you have to be ready to just get right back into the game. There's no slowing down, there's no stopping, there's no nothing, and not even like invincibility or anything like that. You have to be ready to go. And like I said, I think the simple controls help you with that, because it's not like you have to remember all these complex movements that you have to do. It's just you have to be ready to get right back into it. Thumper can definitely kick your ass at first. It does a good job of teaching you what you need to do, but then when you get into the actual game, you're like, whoa, whoa, this is coming at me a little fast. But, you know, you'll die and you'll start over, and you'll die and you'll start over, and it's not like you start from the complete beginning. Track or levels, I should say, have like 2-1, 2-2, 2-3, stuff like that. So you'll start from the latest dashed level that you're at. So if you fail on 2-3, you're not going to go back to 2-1. And you'll learn what's going on, and then something that helps with that, and is also part of every rhythm game, when you learn the flow of the song, when you learn like the beat and what the song is asking you to do, you'll have a better idea how to handle what the track is throwing at you, because you'll hear how it plays into the overall melody. So even if you think the things flying at you on screen are too quick to comprehend, you can use the sounds that you hear to know what's coming up and prompt you for the next move that you're going to have to do. And Thumper does a great job of laying that stuff out for you and making very succinct and recognizable noises for you to be like, okay, I know a turn's coming, okay, there's going to be a platform that I need to jump over or something like that. So as long as you're paying attention to the audio, which you should be because it's a rhythm game, you should be able to get a grip on what you need to do. And again, like I said earlier, you'll be surprised at what you'll be able to handle, even though it looks like pure insanity on the screen. Obviously, there were all other kinds of rhythm games, and it's not a new genre. There was Guitar Hero and Rock Band, but before that, there was a lot of experimental rhythm games. Stuff like Parappa the Rapper and Guitaru Man and Rez and Elite Beat Agents. And Thumper definitely falls more in line with those kind of games. It's a more experimental rhythm game. But there's a big difference for me with the soundtrack in Thumper. I feel like Thumper soundtrack really fits with the mood of the game and like really builds the intensity of what you're doing. All those other games I mentioned have awesome songs on them. I'm such a huge fan of Rez, and if any one of the games that's going to have a soundtrack that gets close to what this game does, I would say Rez. But still, the overall soundtrack in Thumper and the way it builds as you're going through a level and the way it builds on specific tracks and is married to the action on screen, it really, really builds the intensity. It feels like pure insanity, and that's what it's supposed to be because it looks like pure insanity. And I know I've said insanity a lot here, but that's one of the best ways I can describe the game. The soundtrack is just like pounding and screaming, and it's just going absolutely nuts. And you're playing it, and you're basically conducting it and adding to it. And it just adds to that overall feeling that you're getting from the game. It's just such an intense experience, and I love it for that because it is not afraid to be extremely intense and in your face, and it's trying to push you to your limits of what you can do and what you can focus on. And it just feels awesome when you're playing it. Every time you finish a portion of the track, you're like, oh my god, I can't believe I pulled that off. As I said, I played this game on PS4 and I played with PSVR, and that only added to the chaos of the experience, which, you know, I found fantastic. But I also played it without the visor. You know, it was maybe 60-40 split, more on the side of PSVR, but I played it without and the game was just as enjoyable. Obviously, you're not playing with any sort of visor on the Switch version, but what you do get on this version is HD Rumble, and I feel Thumper is one of the games that uses HD Rumble really well because it's a music game. It's a rhythm game. So depending on what you're doing on the track, you'll get certain thuds and stuff in the controller, obviously beyond a regular rumble, that really help to marry you to the action on screen. And when you feel the ship like rubbing up against the sides of the track, you can feel that on the separate sides of the controller as well. So you put all that together, mixed with like the certain beats that you're hitting and what you feel in the controller. I feel the HD Rumble does a really good job of bringing you deeper into the experience. Between PSVR and HD Rumble, it's hard to say which one I like more. I wish I could combine the two because I think that would be the ultimate experience. But I guess what I could say is HD Rumble and PSVR aren't necessary to play the game. The game is still fantastic without either of those, but each one adds its own little something to the experience, and I feel heightens it in some way. So hopefully you'll enjoy what is in there. It's not going to be anything mind-blowing, but it definitely adds to the experience. I'm not one to really get into the discussion about graphics and graphics comparisons. That's a whole nother video that I want to do on this channel at some point. I'm just not picky when it comes to graphics. With all that said, when it comes to Thumper on Switch, I feel like it looks exactly like the PS4 version. Like, I didn't notice any differences. There's certainly not any slowdown to 60 frames per second. It looks and plays exactly the same. So, you know, if there was a difference, especially one that affected the gameplay, I would let you guys know. But here, I didn't notice anything. I felt like it looked exactly as it did when I played it the first time. So I'm sure people will be happy to hear that. To my understanding, it runs 720p on portable mode, but it still retains the 60 frames per second. And when you're talking about a rhythm game like this with this intensity, I feel like the 60 frames per second rock solid is important. Now, I don't know if it doesn't dip somewhere along the line. You know, that's more for the Digital Foundry guys or something like that. But I can tell you through my experience, I had no issues playing the game. I had no issues with the visuals. I had no stutters or anything like that. Looks the part and plays the part just like the other versions. The rhythm genre has always been a niche genre. Guitar Hero Rock Band really broke things out with its licensed music and real-life instruments, but they're blips on the radar. Everything else in the rhythm genre has, you know, been niche. And it upsets me because I love rhythm games. They're among some of my favorite games that are out there. But I understand why they're niche. I understand why they're not for everybody. But with that said, there's so many amazing experiences in the genre, and Thumper is definitely one of those, if not one of the best one of those. It is something that has to be played to be believed. It's a spectacle for other people to see, and that might scare people away. They might see the game and be like, there's no way I can play this, and you can try and convince them that they can. but they just won't do it, or don't think they'll be able to do it. But don't you miss out on that. Even if you're on the fence, even if you have the slightest interest, you have to check this game out. It's definitely about the gameplay experience, about, you know, the fun of the game, but also the feeling that the game gives you. It's a feeling that sticks with you. It's a feeling that is so intense and so heavy when you're playing the game. Like, your blood's pumping, your eyes are watering, you're sweating, and all those things sound like bad, but I mean them in such a great way. It's a unbelievable experience, and I'm so happy it's on Switch. Do not miss out on this one.